Let's try again. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Jay. So I met Jay 2 years ago, but I got to have lunch with him about a week ago. And it was great. I mean, he, as you see and as you've heard, is a tremendous representative of Europe. Made me very excited for him. Made me very excited. We're going to have a couple of interns starting at CZI next week? Next week, Monday. But I have to tell you, it left me a little bit intimidated. I mean, sorry, man. I was like, this may be the first commencement where the intro is better remembered than the commencement speech. And it got me to thinking actually about how uncomfortable introductions and bios and programs actually make me. Because I want you to think about the stories that you just heard the young people tell about themselves. And I want you to think about what Jay just said about me. All true. But what intros and bios leave out is how funny looking you were as a kid and how much you got teased, how many times you got jumped on the way to school, about the time that you overheard your teachers talking about you and the one that defended you said, well, you think he's not smart, I just think he's lazy. Or the time you messed around and lost your scholarship, or the times you failed in your business before you succeeded. Those things get left out of the story in the short bio. Now, you might ask why on a day like today when you are celebrating a great accomplishment when I bring these up. And there are a few reasons. One is that I want you to remember that no matter who is standing in front of you, it is a part of the human story that we all have had those moments in our lives. Those times in our lives when it seemed like it might be too hard to get to the other side. The second is that these moments are actually unavoidable. But they are also what make our stories interesting. Every great book you've read, every great movie you have seen has had that moment in it. You never saw a movie that said, they made a plan, everything went as planned, and they succeeded, right? There's that time in the middle, the time when they're struggling, and it looks so hard that you may almost weep for them. And even though you know the inevitable outcome is that they're going to succeed, you begin to root for them because you know how hard it actually is. You can relate to that moment and what it feels like to want to get to the other side. And you feel inspired even by the notion that you are going to get there. So it goes with me, though. This is my story. Both the true parts are true. The good parts are true. I did have the opportunity to go to the school of my top choice for business school. I did have the opportunity to start a business and sell it. I did have the opportunity to work for the President of the United States, who was a person who inspired me beyond my imagination. And I am doing the work today that I would do if I won the lottery tomorrow. Hopefully having the opportunity to change millions of lives. But it's the intersectionality of those other things, those other parts of my story and these accomplishments that make me who I am. They make my story, and they make it such that when I am ultimately successful in my aspirations, I will be as happy for the journey as I am to be able to stand at the end. Now, I could talk to you about a lot of things today. Matter of fact, I asked Jay, if you had the opportunity, would you tell the graduates today that you wish you had known when you graduated? He had an incredible list, and I'm actually going to ask you, Jay, to actually write it, because not only for Europe graduates, but any graduates, I think they're so wise that it should be shared. But I know from my experience with Jay and from, frankly, Europe graduates and participants that I've met over the years that you know a lot about the things that lead to success. So I want to tell you about the one thing that I think is the biggest determinant besides your own thoughtfulness and your own effort that will determine how likely and how quickly you get through those tough times and achieve your ultimate aspirations. And that one thing is the people around you. The people you choose to have in your circle. Now, all of you are here today in this experience, and I see the people on the sides because you have people in your circle. You have people who are rooting for you. You're about to go into a world where you're going to encounter lots of other people. Lots of people are supposed to be on your team. Many of them will say that they are. I just want to talk about how you know which ones really are. The first thing that people that are really on your team do is ask you questions. The first question they ask you is, that's really important, is why not? See, we all have dreams and aspirations. And sometimes, as you heard from Daniel, you can lose faith and focus on those dreams. And when you lose that faith and focus, it is important to have that person in your life that says, you think you can't do that? Why not? When I thought that I couldn't get into a top school, it was my friend Sharice Killian who said, why not? When I thought I couldn't actually raise enough money for my business, it was my friend Mark Long who said, why not? When I thought I actually couldn't get through the vetting process to go and serve my president, and I couldn't take the pay cut, it was my wife Sonia who said, why not? You need the people in your life who, when you have an aspiration and it starts getting hard and you start having doubt, they ask you, why not? The second important question that the people on your team, the ones that are really on your team, ask you is, what's next? Or what now? Because there are very few straight line journeys in your life. Everyone in this room, every story that you've heard, has had to take a turn. They've encountered an obstacle. They've hit a hard time. And those times, they actually hurt. They are hard. And your friends, the people on your team, they feel those things. They empathize with you because they are highly invested in your future too. But they refuse to wallow there. And so after they console you, they end up saying, what now? It didn't work out. I understand. That hurts. What now? When I started my first business, I started a business that was doing super well on paper. We had great plans. We had actually started to operate. Our revenues had grown really, really quickly. We had hundreds of employees, thousands and thousands of customers. We just happened to have started our business right before the internet bubble burst. And so even though we were succeeding, I was failing at every attempt to raise money. Could not do it. And time again, it got more and more frustrating. And I would go back and I would talk to my board members, and one of my board members in particular, a woman named Kim Smith, she said, I know it must be frustrating. What now? What are we going to do now? Third question. People on your team don't stop with the first two. They always ask, how can I help? How can I help? There are things you have to do. I know that they are hard. I know you may not have the resources. We may not know what to do together. But whatever it is, how can I help? That same board member I talked about, she didn't stop at the, what now are you going to do? Great advice. She said, what are we going to do? When you find people that ask those questions, you are finding people on your team. Now, in the last couple of minutes, I just want to tell you about the levels. Like, how deep are they in your team? So there's the first ring. The first ring of people are the people who ask those questions. They're really helpful to you. And you know what? You can even get into trouble with those people because they are going to help you try and figure it out. But there's another ring. I talked about this with Jay. See, my wife and I, one day we were talking to a friend of mine who had broken his elbow. And it turned out the way he broke his elbow was he was out walking with his grandchild, and a pit bull actually attacked his grandchild. And in fighting off the pit bull, which he did successfully, he broke his elbow and fractured his hip. So our expression first was about who we would let walk with our children. And I would go, I don't know, because I don't know if they'll fight the dog. But it has now become a generic statement for us about the people in our lives, about the people who are there, they're helpful and they're nice, and the people who are willing to fight the dog. You got to have some people who are willing to fight the dog. You can't count on everybody to do that, and that does not make them bad people, but you need to be able to tell the difference between the two. I'm going to tell you about the third and last rung. And these people are really exceptional, and they're rare. A friend of mine, Stephen DeBerry, is a mountain climber. And, I don't know a lot of brothers to climb mountains, so he's done a lot, too. Movie about him. But he was telling me about his training and the tools they take and all that good stuff. And then he told me about the knife they have. It's a special knife that he has that can cut through any of the rope that they have. And the reason, among other things, that they have this knife is that, as you may have seen in many a movie, that sometimes when you are climbing a mountain, somebody slips. Someone falls. They are on the team with you. They are on this hard journey. They have the same goal you do, to make it to the top of the mountain, to make it to the top of the mountain. And someone falls. Now you are on the top, and they've been helping you all the way, and you are reaching back, and you are trying to pull them. And Stephen knows that he's on the bottom, and that if you keep reaching, you're going to fall, and you're not going to reach the top. And his job, being that person on the bottom, because you're not going to, is to cut the rope, to let you go, do what you need to do to achieve your aspirations. The people who are the deepest on your team, they will cut the rope if it means you get to achieve your aspirations. So, I said a lot about the people that you want to have in your life. I want to remind you that to have those people, you need to be worthy of those people. And that half of that is being one of those people. And if you do that, as you begin to write your story from this stage on, as you put in the effort that I know you will, I have no question you will write a compelling story and you will stand victorious at the end. Often people say one man or woman can't change the world. That is just a myth. The truth is, every single man or woman changes the world. The only question is, for the better or worse, and to what degree? Thank you.